Hi, welcome to this video looking at the paper 1, question 1 for the GCSE English Language. This video is looking at the Eduqas exam board. However, question 1 is the same for all exam boards, so feel free to watch this video. So remember, in the exam you'll get an unseen text, meaning you don't know what you're going to see when you can go in. It could be any extract from the 20th or 19th century, depending on the exam board you're looking at. In this case, we're looking at No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. It was made into a Best Oscar winner film 15 years or so ago. So question 1. So remember, depending on your exam board, the question will be worth 4 or 5 marks. Okay, and you should be looking to spend 4 or 5 minutes on this question. And basically it's a search and find question, meaning they give you a question and you've got to locate it in the text. So you don't really have to do too much analysis on this question. It's really a question to introduce you to the exam and give you a nice simple starter in the exam. So what I mean by search and find is it's testing your ability to identify explicit and implicit information. So what I mean by that is explicit would be something really obvious, so just saying it was cold. So for example, the question might be, how was the character feeling? You would say it was cold. An implicit point is where it's a bit more subtle. You have to read between the lines a little bit more. So for example, explicit would be it was cold. Implicit would be he had to wear his coat as he slept. So you as a reader are reading into the fact that because he's got to wear a coat when he's asleep, he is obviously cold. So the information retrieval question will look like something like this. List reasons or details, make a list, explain what you learn. That's how it will look. And this is how it will look in reality. So question 1, read lines 12 to 19 of the source. List 4 things from this part of the text about the baby, for example. So lines to 12 will tell you where to read. Everything else before line 12 and after line 19 you wouldn't get a mark for. Your points must be about the baby and nothing else. So say, for example, list 4 things about the baby. However, the whole text is about a family. If you talked about the mother or the father, you're not going to get any marks. It's only to do with the baby. And basically, you should write a sentence. So tips for this question: use whole sentences but keep them brief in your answer. Don't copy whole chunks and sentences. So if you do that, it's showing the examiner you don't know the answer to the question. You're just almost hedging your bets. But if it's worth 5 marks, try to make 5 points. Or if you can, if you've got a bit of time, try to make 6 marks or 6 or 7 points. Because basically, if you get one wrong, maybe you've almost got credit in the bank because you've got your extra one written there. So a few tips for this question. Tip number 1. Read each question twice before you read the specific lines from the extract the question you on. So if you read it twice, just to make sure you get it correct. Tip 2, mark or circle on the exam paper for the selection you are answering, e.g. lines 1 to 12. So if I've got my exam paper here, the question one is on 1 line to 12. I've just squared it around lines 1 to 12, so I know all my information must come from inside that box. Okay, makes it clear for me. Number 3, read with the question in mind. Use a highlighter to read out key information that will help you answer the question. Okay, so my yellow highlighter here, I'm looking at the question, I'm keeping the question in my head, and I've highlighted 5 or 6 things that I think will help me answer my question. It might not be exactly these words, however, I'm just giving myself an easy way of just saying to myself, okay, so my answer is going to come from these parts here. However, that leads on to tip 4, where we don't want to highlight everything. So be specific, only highlight relevant words or phrases. Too much will make it difficult for you to work out what's evidence or which quotes to use. So for example, if I highlighted everything or loads like this, I've got no idea really where my answers are going to come in from. So be specific is really going to help you. Okay, so read each question twice, mark or circle the part you're reading about, read with the question in mind, and don't highlight everything, just the parts that can help you. So many of my students failed to gain full marks because they simply didn't read the question properly. Students need to answer in a simple sentence type answer. So for example, if the question was list 4 things from the text about the man's appearance, he had wild eyes would get a mark and would be accepted, but wild eyes wouldn't be. So this is what students tend to do because they think it's a bullet point question. They think they can be really brief. You've still got to use a sentence. You've got to still answer the question. So each answer must make sense on its own. So for example, wild eyes does not make sense on its own as a sentence. However, he had wild eyes, full stop, does make it sense and does answer the question. So it's always good to start with whatever the question is. So in this case, it's about the man's physical appearance. So I could do all my bullet points saying the man, the man, the man all the way down, or using he all the way down. He had wild eyes. Okay, either of those things would be fine. So like I say, we're looking at No Country for Old Men, Cormac McCarthy. So I would have a text like this in my exam. I probably have about a page and a half actually. But my question is, read from he dropped his cuffs to the line ending went into the bathroom. So in your exam paper you will have the line numbers so it make it even more obvious, but just in this case, read from he dropped his cuffs to the line ending went into the bathroom. If you want to get the extract, have a look on bpcenglish.wordpress.com. So my question is going to be, list 5 reactions the deputy has from Shagir's actions. Shagir's is the baddie or the evil character. So the question is, list 5 reactions the deputy has from Shagir's actions. Okay, there's my piece of paper again. Remember, my tip is highlight or circle or square, whatever, the part. Okay, and there it is. So all I know that my question, my 5 answers, have got to come from this piece of the extract. Okay, so list 5 reactions the deputy has. So let's read it. He dropped his cuffed hands over the deputy's head and leaped into the air and slammed both knees against the back of the deputy's neck and hauled back on the chain. They went to the floor. The deputy was trying to get his hands inside the chain, but he could not. Shagir lay there, pulling back on the bracelets with his knees between his arms and his face averted. The deputy was flailing wildly and he began to walk sideways over the floor in a circle, kicking over the wastebasket, kicking the chair across the room. He kicked shut the door and he wrapped the throw rug in a wad about them. He was gurgling and bleeding from the mouth. He was strangling on his own blood. Shagir only hauled the harder. The nickel-plated cuffs bit to the bone. The deputy's right carotid artery burst and the jet of blood shot across the room and hit the wall and ran down it. The deputy's legs slowed and then stopped. He lay jerking. Then he stopped moving altogether. Shagir lay breathing quietly, holding him. When he got up, he took the keys from the deputy's belt and he released himself and put the deputy's revolver in the waistband of his trousers and went into the bathroom. Okay, so again, the question is, from this extract, list 5 reactions the deputy has from Shagir's actions. Remember the tips: read the question twice, mark where you're going to write, highlight key evidence but not lots, and then when you answer in short and simple sentences. So go back to the extract. The question is, list 5 reactions. So if you want to pause the video, do that now. Okay, so the ones I highlighted with my highlighter would be, they went to the floor, the deputy was trying to get his hands inside the chain, he was flailing wildly, he kicked the chair in the wastebasket, he was bleeding and gurgling from his mouth, strangling on his own blood, his legs slowed and stopped, he lay jerking, and then he stopped again completely. So, if we look at the question, how it would look in the exam, read lines 1 to line ending went into the bathroom of the source, list 4 reactions again, answer it using a simple sentence. So, the deputy falls to the floor. So see how that is a mark. You could have put he falls to the floor. However, in this case, there are 2 male characters, so it probably makes sense to put the deputy to make it even clearer. But if I would have just put falls to the floor, which a lot of students do, you wouldn't get the mark. So using the deputy really makes it clear. He was flailing wildly. The deputy kicked over the wastebasket. He kicked shut the door. The deputy was gurgling and bleeding from the mouth. His body jerked. So remember, you only actually needed 4, but I've put 6 in there just in case one of my other ones is incorrect. Remember, this is time dependent, so if I couldn't find 5 or 6, I wouldn't waste my time on it. So to improve on this question on retrieving information, just keep testing yourself against the clock. Keep finding texts, keep finding exam papers, and just 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes just help for that revision. Okay, that's it on No Country for Old Men, Paper 1, Question 1. Any questions, leave me a comment in the comment section.